Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Another book review on this book. Tuning In, series number 133, part 2. We left off discussing Wendy Kennedy channeling the Pleiadian Collective. And on the previous video, if you watched it, there's some pretty explosive information. And I noticed I'm not getting a lot of thumbs up on the channeled material, not so much enthusiasm as I was from the material from the Encyclopedia Judaica and other books. It's because I think most people probably haven't thought about this stuff. Didn't know the connection that we have people out there communicating with the beings from the other side. Believable or unbelievable? Even on page 57 of this book, in the previous video, many of the reptilians that you hear about, these are Pleiadians. And if you've been watching material or doing your own research on YouTube and other books, apparently, it says in this book also, these people are also the Anunnaki, Zechariah Stitchens, the Egyptian hieroglyphics, Sumerian tablets. All this stuff connects the dots with the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are the ones who helped create the state of Israel from the 200-plus-year-old plan. Actually goes back a long time. 2,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when the Jewish people, the Hebrews, the original Jewish people, apparently not the majority of the Jewish people we're talking about today, who are mostly from the Khazarian area, up there by the Ukraine, Poland, Russia. So a whole nation 1,000 years ago, the Khazarians, a barbaric people, converted to Judaism. And Judaism has some interesting aspects to their religion, Judaism, in particular the Talmud, Zohar, and the Kabbalah, and mysticism, and more. The foundation and backbone and creators of the secret societies, so it seems. If you read the Scottish Rite, Freemasonry, Morals and Dogma, and the other books, and the Blue Lodge Handbook, you will see mention of King Solomon's Temple and Joachim and Bose and all these entities from Jerusalem in Jewish history 2,000 years ago. So you can't help but connect the dots. With the New World Order, the Communists, the Zionists, the Illuminati, the Pleiadians, reptilians. So this begs the question, okay, so this must tie in with the aliens, UFOs, and all this stuff with Nibiru, the Anunnaki, incoming Planet X, the government preparing for a pole shift or some kind of disaster. Or is all this some version of Project Bluebeam? Look it up. Where they plan on a big hoax, a big deception. We know they want the New World Order. We know they're in the process of creating the New Age. They've been in it for 50, 60, 70 years. The Age of Aquarius. It's serious efforts to destroy Christianity and make people believe that Jesus wasn't even real. What do these channeled entities say? So before I start, just was looking at a couple books in my bookcase. Books I haven't read yet, some I have. but maybe it made a nice opening for this video. Circle of Intrigue, Tex Mars. He has his own website, publisher of many books, sends out the newsletters if you buy something on his website. And you can buy a lot of stuff. I'm not affiliated with him. I buy something every now and then just to get the newsletters. Here's one of his books, The Destroyer. Is the Christian establishment going to hell in a handbasket, or is it already gone? You can buy these things. Look at these creatures here. Chimeras, monsters, Pizzagate, and the satanic hoodwink of America and the world. That says a lot. So for $10, you can get that CD. So I haven't read all of this article, and this one I received recently. Circle of Intrigue, the hidden inner circle of the global Illuminati conspiracy. So if the channeled entities, in this case, Wendy Kennedy channeling Tiberius. Now this one's here is the Pleiadian Collective. You can see I underlined stuff here. I've started reading chapter 3. So I'm going to read from this book today. Maybe some of the video I watched and the notes I took. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, I watch videos and I take extensive notes. So between reading the books, watching the videos, and as many as I've done on these channeled entities in the last, since 122, from the raw material, Cryon, Jane Roberts channeling Seth, Esther Hicks, Manifest Your Desires, so much more. So I thought I'd read this little opening on the front of this book. Think about this. Is there a world conspiracy forged by the super rich? So how do they get to be super rich? Is there connection to some kind of entities that are more than human? Or in communication with entities from the other side? And are those entities the Watchers, the Archons, the Nephilims, other demons, angels, beings mentioned in the Bible, and many other sources? Is this powerful group of wealthy conspirators the mysterious men often chillingly described as the Illuminati? Remember, I've been going over a lot of material in the Encyclopedia Judaica. This is series 133. And I just went and updated my index of all the videos that are posted. So if you go back and check on all the stuff since series 100, there is a lot of very interesting material on communism, Zionism, anti-Semitism, Jewish history, all over the world, out of the Encyclopedia Judaica, and these channeled entities videos I've been making. Are they telling the truth? What do you think? Do these unseen men, our controllers, have a hidden agenda which dramatically endangers our homes, our families, our very lives. And remember, we're talking a lot now about some kind of transformation, some kind of planetary ascension. Who controls what we all receive for information? Whether it is alternate websites, Main Street news, books, publishers, radio stations, magazines, and the hidden information through mesmerism, propaganda, beguilement, trickery, mind control, false flag, terror events, shootings, bombings, 9/11, World War I, World War II. There's something seriously sinister behind all of this. There are momentous, breathtaking questions. These are. But we must seriously consider the grim situation we now face. This is Tech Mars. The conspiracy which many people today so furiously deny, and which others cunningly and craftily seek to conceal, is real. God's prophetic scriptures warned us this would happen. When I read this stuff from Tuning In, a couple journalists interviewed 6 different trance channelers. They start out by being very pleasant, like I am right here. And then they sit down and they relax and start to close their eyes, and all of a sudden, hello, I am here. Some entity comes through just like that. Some more emotional, some more subtle. So what are we to believe? Is this part of the conspiracy? That a small cabal of utterly wicked men, pridefully believing themselves to be divine gods, would recklessly plot a global conspiracy in the last days. An alliance of blood and dynasty. In the pages of Circle of Intrigue, a prophetic drama of almost unbelievable proportion unfolds. I have to read this. I just liked the opening and thought I'd use it for this video. We discover an alliance of blood and dynasty. So think about that. They've been seething certain peoples, from the Illuminati to Zionist Jewish people, communism, secret societies, seething to have this one world government. And they've even got people convinced it's a good thing. One guy on one of my recent videos says that population reduction is absolutely a great idea. Like the Georgia USA Guidestones say they want 500 million human beings on the planet and maintain it at that level. That's what it says. So I suppose if there are 6+ billion people on the planet, a lot of people have to die. But with all these technologies, and apparently the technologies were obtained through communication from beings on the other side, even like Nikola Tesla, getting visions and hearing things in dreams that he even talked about. I got onto this line of investigation because I was just investigating famous scientists and famous inventors, philosophers, because I believed that the educational institutions were keeping something from the rest of us. I was involved in electronic technology, worked at a major aerospace company for 10 years, and I had read magazines, Popular Science, Nexus, and other books, and it just seemed to me there was a lot of gossip out there about hidden things. So I didn't even know about this channeled stuff. Using dowsing rods to find water. Holistic healing. Stuff in the Bible. I wasn't seriously religious. I grew up Catholic and went to church on Sunday and tried to be a good man. Sinning along the way, I'm sure. So anyways, we discover an alliance of blood and dynasty of infidels acting like maniacs, driven by a witch's brew, combination of vanity and greed to launch a series of earth-shattering events. Indeed, their plot, if successful, will extinguish our most precious freedoms. So I certainly would like to read this book in its entirety and add it to my book reviews on my videos. I did make one on this one already. Erich von Däniken. And I was fascinated why I'm mentioning it here with these gold plates. It's discovered in Ecuador. Notice it looks like the pyramid on the US $1 bill. Look at the creatures, the entities. So there does appear to be an eye up there also. So look on your $1 bill and see it for yourself. So prior to the Great Flood, I think this is a picture of a stone when placed under a black light. It seems to be the Pleiades star system on the bottom here, and it looks like the pyramid on the US $1 bill, and the eye on the top. Here's the video where you can go watch this if it's still published. Something strange about ISON. You might want to see this. So since 2012, remember that? End of the world propaganda, news, 13, 14, 15, Jade Helm 15, military equipment and vehicles dispersing all over the country. Apparently testing out software that would make decisions whenever they do whatever they're going to do. Not human beings. They can't trust human beings to make decisions to determine who needs to be killed, eliminated, by some kind of meta tags, like what makes videos and websites popular, meta tags, keywords. And so these computers will find out who knows who's been watching what, who's been saying what, meta tags. And that'll be, they'll use those software to disperse troops and equipment and maybe some other seriously sinister weaponry. Another, the Gold of the Gods, Van Däniken, that was series. Thought I wrote it on the back of all these books. I did make videos on that. This one's also interesting. Bloodlines of the Gods. Notice the creature on the front cover here, man, and then looks like a gray alien. And this was series number 47. And a lot of people have Rh negative blood. Apparently there are people on the planet that have some different kind of DNA than the rest of us. And then when I've been reading this channeled material, they have this saying or this teaching about what you think about, you bring about. Creating your own reality. So I thought about that and I said, well, wait a minute. They're feeding us all this new propaganda with the channelers and new age material, and everybody seems to be, shouldn't say everybody, but a good portion of the people on the planet seems to be caught up in these different new age organizations, schools, books, teachings, cults, philosophy. Create your own reality. What you think about, you bring about. Manifest in your own reality. So it seems like there is an intentional effort to change how we think. So we don't think and pray to God, as Rabbi Marvin Anthelman told us. to eliminate the opaque. Because if you bring about what you think about and you're praying to God, and we have family values and we believe in the 10 Commandments and treat your fellow man like you want to be treated, or the commandment that Jesus gave us in the Gospel of St. John, we are to love one another. You bring about what you think about. You create your own reality. According to a lot of the stuff I've been reading, the common denominators on these channelers and their entities that are communicating to the people of the planet. So they don't want you to believe in the old religion, creating your own reality, and bring about what you think about. They even call Christians and other people who are opposed to pansexualism, sex with anything, transgenderism, whatever that is. You can be whatever you want to be. And bisexuality, adultery, stuff that apparently God said was abhorrent in the Bible and we weren't to do. Even the 7th commandment is thou shalt not commit adultery, right between thou shalt not murder and thou shalt not steal. So I suspect it's pretty up there that we shouldn't be perverted in our sexual leanings. We should try to be decent, good people. So they don't want us, and it's pretty clear in these books, they don't want us to believe in God, Christianity, Jesus, and to pray. And in these books with the Sabbatan and the Frankist, gone over, this is series number 45, go watch those videos, that they have this alternate Messiah, Sabbatai Zivi and others, who are preaching the opposite of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt kill, thou shalt steal, thou shalt do whatever thou wants to do. And even, I guess, sex with children and murdering people and, I guess, whatever makes you feel good. Versus what the Bible teaches and what God taught in the 10 Commandments given to Moses and Jesus. And these elites who are controlling our world and apparently behind all this propaganda, beguilement, deception, what are they doing? Series number 31 and many other books out there, they've built facilities to go underground, whatever comes, whenever it comes, whatever it is, whatever they bring about that they think about. These people who think that they're divine gods. Even the Professor Higger, the rabbi, who wrote the book The Jewish Utopia, says it all. William Roberts in The Ultimate World Order, I made that video, a couple on his material. What series number was that, if I can remember? The Jewish Utopia, 67 series. So you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to say to yourself, it's kind of weird. What also was interesting is I was just paying attention. I got my notes here. Just a lot of things come to surprise me, even after investigating for this long. But apparently, if you go to watch the zetatalk.com and look up the Zeta Report Many Voices video, she's talking about this Planet X Nibiru and everything I just talked about. And if you go to the Barbara Marciniak, who talks about the Pleiades, I've made videos on her books. The Pleiadians, July 2017, Welcome to the Finish. And she talks about these Planet X, Anunnaki, Pleiadian entities, and all the same thing. And even another recent one, Jordan Maxwell, He's talking about incoming Planet X Nibiru pole shifting. Nancy Leader from Zeta Talk is talking about Planet X, Nibiru, Pleiadians, Anunnaki, reptilians, and a pole shift and all this, including all this conversation about ascension and transformation and people resisting. So we can say with a little accuracy, something is going on. So with that said, I'm going to start reading from this book, And again, I feel that people probably think this doesn't interest them because it's just something they hadn't thought about. And I'm finding out that could be anything but the truth. These entities are saying things that are quite profound. And we better figure out whether it's good or bad. Put our thinking caps on. So I left off on page 60. And I'll just start reading here. If you understand that you're holographic in nature, and you can clear it in yourself, then it makes it much easier for others to clear. So we all know that we're made up of atoms and molecules. Everything behind me, the wood, the paintings, my body, everything is swirling and moving. So could that be some form of different kind of gravitational forces, different kinds of software in the DNA, even of trees and different things, structuring the molecules and atoms to pull all this together in cahoots with some kind of magnetic field that we're all enclosed in called planet Earth. And that just brings me to the discussion of all these Gwen towers, cell phone towers, HAARP systems, H-A-A-R-P, gigantic microwave transmitters, and flat screen TVs and all kinds of cell phones, tablets, new technologies, wireless everywhere. We're being in a completely engulfed in all these waves. At what point can it be so damaging, so controlling? Has it already happened? Has the Mandela effect happened? Are they warping our reality like a Twilight Zone movie? I've made a lot of videos on these kinds of conversations. There seems to be little question that apparently in the past, prior to the Great Flood, there were these beings on planet Earth, not necessarily from the Galactic Federation or some other planet where people are more advanced, even looking like insectoids or reptilian creatures. But right here on Earth, I'm quite sure there were other manifestations. And apparently prior to the Great Flood, a lot of beings, intelligences, helped a lot of natives all over the world survive, including the Ecuadorians up in the Andes Mountains. There's all kinds of caves described by Eric von Donovich, and that's where he found these 3-foot tall gold plates with even the language and all that, and apparently this stuff was discovered all over the world. But the problem back then, prior to the Great Flood, was that they had polluted the human race with DNA, and they were creating all kinds of monsters. We've seen the pictures in mythology, half horse, half human, and half all kinds of other creatures and all this, including giants and skeletons found all over the world. So whatever the powers that be, God or whatever, could not let that go on, according to my understanding. And they had to wipe all this out. And of course, the easiest way was to flood the planet after securing some of the humans everywhere to be used as workers or slaves after the Great Flood. So the story goes, in Christianity, of course, it's Noah and his ark. So what is true? But the biggest point of my making these videos is to point out to people that something is going on and we can have a conversation about it. And the books are out there, the websites are out there, the investigators are out there. There are people who have woken up. A lot of people have been assassinated, imprisoned, discredited, ruined because they saw things and made intelligent observations. There is a lot of power in that. Understanding that this reality isn't just that simple, just a manifestation of flesh and bones, and that we don't live after this. We need to open our minds and realize there is more to this reality than we see. That's the beginning. So if you want to keep someone from assessing their own power and helping to heal the planet or helping to heal mass consciousness, you're going to tell them that it's very selfish for them to look inside. Remember, like I said here, Rabbi Marvin Antelman, leader of the Jewish Congress, exposes all about the Kabbalistic, Zionist, communist Jewish people. Even in the Jewish camp, you got your Orthodox Jewish people, the good ones, and you got the ones that are reformed or turned toward the dark side, the satanic Luciferic religion, for greed, power, and perverted sex with humans, torture, abuse. Some people get great satisfaction from that. They think they're the aristocrats of the world, and that's one of the books I made a video on, the Jewish Utopia. It says that in there. Protocols of Zion. Go read it. Free online. Report from Iron Mountain. Go read them. Free online, PDF form. All right. So what can you do for yourself? Look at your issues. Look at your buttons being pushed. And they are pushing our buttons. The video doesn't want to stop. Whenever I get to 30 minutes, I try to stop just in case the video gets corrupted. The whole thing doesn't have to be redone past a half an hour. Where do you feel fear? Where do you feel that you shrink away? And these are the places you need to look at. So yes, certainly we all need to be looking at issues that we don't want to look at. Why are they dumping chemicals in the sky? Why are they continuing to bomb the smithereens out of Syria, killing people all over the Middle East? Is there a new age and a new world order? Is the book, The Jewish Utopia, true about what it says they want to do, what they think they are? More divine, more godlike than the rest of us. We will tell you that we find that there are several healing modalities that are far more powerful. And we will also say that your healing modalities are going to start changing very radically. For a while now, you have had your Reiki and your Shekam and your Gaikon and your general hands-on healing. And it's wonderful. It was very good for the masses. A gentle way to start to bring things up. But we're going to tell you it's time to up the game. Remember, this is Wendy Kennedy channeling the Pleiadian Collective. You're running out of time. So if there are some entities from the angelic world, the world of heaven, the world of Hades maybe, whatever, different planes of existence, different dimensions, they're saying we're running out of time. Should we consider this? Go on YouTube and see videos about the global warming and the craziness all over the world, trumpets blowing out of nowhere, They are saying the North Pole is shifting around, pole shifting, and they're prophesizing doomsday, World War III. It says here, you're running out of time, channeled by these entities. Should we believe these mediums, these psychics, these channelers, when they're communicating with beings on the other side, and they say you're running out of time? Or should we just ignore it? We don't want to say that with you thinking. We don't want to say that with you thinking you're feeling pressured. So they don't want you to feel pressured, but they want you to know you're running out of time. But things are going to start to accelerate. You're going to be able to move through things very quickly. Whereas before it may have taken you several years, it's going to take you several days or several hours. You're going to have a lot of your core issues coming up to the surface. It's not that something's wrong or that you're doing something wrong. It's part of the clearing process so you can move into the higher frequencies without this baggage from the third dimension. And you want to deal with it now because it's going to be far more intense for you to deal with later, because it's immediately manifest and it's far more of an intense manifestation. So as you move into the next cycle, and remember we left the age of Pisces, which began 2,000 years ago when Jesus was born, and as we heard from that song in the 1960s, the age of Aquarius, this is a new cycle. I don't think they made those 12 astrological signs, which are some kind of star chart, for nothing. I believe there is something to that. Some kind of mapping system of the different ages. Remember, this is more to our reality than most people are aware. And some of the stuff in these books might be helpful and truthful, and some of it may be deception. It's for us to figure it out. So as you move into this next cycle, it's going to be about 50 years worth of growth in an approximate 8-month period. So remember, not too long ago we had that Mandela effect. A lot of people were becoming aware, like Looney Tunes wasn't Looney T-O-O-N-S, it was T-U-N-S, like a tune, music tune. T-U-N-E, T-U-N. And many other subtle things. And I was looking into it and I found myself confused too. But then I remember the Philadelphia experiment and Jacob's ladder and different issues on time travel. And so it just H.G. Wells even wrote something on the time machine, and he was one of these elitist groups from these secret societies. There's plenty of evidence out there that with mysticism, witchcraft, Kabbalah teaching, and that these secret societies teach stuff that they don't want the rest of us to know. Alchemy. And if you think that is intense, the one thing coming after that is going to be several lifetimes worth of growth in a 6-month period. So they're saying things are speeding up. You wonder how in the world will we all be able to ascend? So are we all going to ascend and re-manifest ourselves into some angelic-like beings? It's a pleasant thought. But with the people running our world right now, like Tex Mars just said, circles of intrigue, with the all-seeing eye and the pyramid on the dollar bill and the satanic symbolism rituals being displayed everywhere all over the world, including the Temple of Baal in New York and London. And I learned later on through UNESCO from the United Nations, they were trying to put up 1,000 of these archways of Baal. Some kind of portal for some kind of beings to come through, like some of the people who videotaped UFOs speeding away, and in front of them would this dark circle portal thing seem to appear out of nowhere, and the UFO would go right into it and disappear. And in some cases, a portal would appear and a UFO would come out of it. It seems like we're falling so far behind. But we're telling you that you are getting support and time is going to accelerate. You're going to move through things very, very quickly. What are some of the healing modalities? Working with tone sound is one of the most potent and most powerful. And think about that. I mean, a lot of people hear ringing in their ears, and we all know they have all these disguised towers out there called Gwen, G-W-E-N, look them up. And cell phone towers, and everybody is carrying around a cell phone. Even if you don't have any money, I guess the government gives them to you for free. A lot of people apparently are being microchipped against their will. Alright, so the tones and sounds are out there, the new flat screen TVs, iPads and all that. We're being bombarded with this craziness. Cameras everywhere, facial recognition. And I'm sure that when you're walking by with your cell phone, they've already picked up who you are. And then with the cards you have to swipe at the grocery store to get your discount and your credit cards. They know when you buy gas. They know how much money's in your bank account. So if there are some sinister forces trying to know everything about us, I would say that they have almost completed it 100%. What happens whenever whatever happens? A nuclear explosion in some city, economic collapse, they release some of their bioweapons and create a plague. Say that one president had an argument with another president and they push some nuclear buttons. They're going to do something, I believe. There's a lot of that deception and preparedness out there. What's it have to do with the channeled material? Everything, in my opinion. One is that with human voice, there is also an emotional carrier wave that goes along with it. And I get these Google phone calls and these other phone calls trying to sell me things every day, 4 and 5 times a day. And I hang up when they start that robot talking. And I wonder, is there something that I don't know besides that robot voice that's being delivered to me? Some kind of mesmerism, hypnotism, mind control. Is it happening to you? Are you getting those calls? Do you hear the ringing in your ear? If you don't, ask around. Ask if other people are getting those effects. All right. If the healer is in a space of unconditional love, that emotional carrier wave goes right along with it. So when you work with tone and sound and you work with harmonics, what happens to that note begins to vibrate up mathematically. And as you get higher, you start to move into other dimensions. Here we go. And it will clear out through multiple dimensions. That's why tone and sound and harmonics are so incredibly powerful, because they're working through multiple dimensions. Now, who controls our world? Most of us know. We know that they're the TV programming and all these satanic rituals everywhere, Super Bowl halftime shows, even with horns on these entertainers, sitting on thrones like Madonna. If you go look that stuff up, there is no doubt. Even that Illuminati card game, prophesizing all the events that are happening in the future. Apparently there's some kind of cosmic law that they kind of have to tell us what they're doing. I'm just saying, we the people need to wake up. Leave a comment down below if you have any further information, or even if you disagree, leave a polite comment. One guy left a comment, you can look at my previous video, and he said that some ugly things towards me, and said that he firmly believed depopulation was necessary, and I just thought the guy was crazy. I'll bet he won't be the first person to stand in line to be eliminated. Will he? And the emotional range that accompanies this body goes up to the 6th dimension. So a lot of this talk about dimensions. And remember, I've made videos on Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, ISIS Unveiled, and a lot of stuff about the Theosophist Society with the Lucifer magazine and Lucifer Publishing Company, and Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah. This dimensional information, the Sephiroth and all that, is part of those teachings, FYI. And I'll be showing that clearly. So you're not only clearing out the physical, you're also working with the emotional body, the one that you're taking with you. Channeled material, fascinating stuff. Not trying to do audiobooks, go get these books. I am trying to be thorough in my investigation, though. I'm going to read a lot more. And I am seeing some common denominators. Alright, so it says here, when you incorporate instruments, it's like having another layer of filter out there. It's something else that the energy has to transmit through in order to get to you. While it's possible and a lot of energy and positive things can occur through that, it's not as potent. The other is breath work, working with your breath, because there are different kinds of breathing. Just as you blow on a fire, there are different ways of breathing on a fire to achieve different results. Do you want to get the flame very high, very hot, or do you want the flame? What do you want the flame to do? The breath works energetically and physically. It strokes your inner energetic field, allowing you to bring issues up to the surface so that they can be released. The emotional body creates a physical template. So a lot of people are into yoga, meditation, chanting, even with Stephen Greer's Serious Disclosure. They go to the beach and they do these chants to bring these entities into their observational view. I was invited to a couple of those. I get the Stephen Greer emails. An illness starts in the emotional field. Without exception, if it's a genetic mutation that starts in the emotional field, and it is something that has been so generously left behind by one of your ancestors, they had a big emotional issue, a block, and it altered the genetic material, and that got passed down to the genetic line. That can also be altered. If you can clear it out of your field, this is a lot of the teaching here, it can clear it out of the genetic line. You clear out emotionally the physical template that responds to the change in the emotional one. So if there are toxins locked in the cells because of that block in the energetic field, those are then released and the oxygen helps to move those particles through the body. Lest we not forget, in the Bible, Jesus healed lots of people, even of leprosy, even raising Lazarus from the dead, even of blindness. Again, we're all molecules and atoms, and I think there is a lot of truth in some of this material. And with that said, remember my last video, they did say the Pleiadians were the reptilians, the Anunnaki, which are the Illuminati, which are the ones who sponsored the State of Israel with the Balfour Agreement and the money. They even have a Rothschild's Boulevard in Jerusalem, I believe. So now we know who's behind all this and what this Jewish utopia is all about, this new world order, this new age, as prophesied even in the Christian religion. And apparently it's going to be some kind of antichrist. So are these Illuminati reptilian Pleiadian entities? Not all Pleiadian entities, because apparently the Pleiadian Collective, 2,500 of them, are the ones being communicated, channeled in this material. But they're also saying that the Pleiadians on Earth are the reptilians. And there'll be new modalities as well. Yes. And some of you begin to understand how to move multidimensionally. You can come back and work multidimensionally through the energetic bodies. People moving multidimensionally. Remember, I've gone over material by psychic, out-of-body experiences, remote viewing. Tim Rifat, David Morehouse, and other people. Jim Mars, I went over a book about that. So can people, do the government have teams of people who can leave their body and do things, take possession of somebody else's body, and cause them to go shoot up a mall, maybe? So if they do have these kinds of powers, yet again I say, we the people need to wake up. As you are working and clearing things out of your body, you are clearing through not only this lifetime, but also other lifetimes. Every experience of those other aspects of yourself is reflected in your energetic field. You are a walking library. The entire life is deposited in your energetic field. So all those issues that the other lifetime didn't want to deal with or suppressed are showing up in your auric field now. So apparently Edgar Casey was getting all his information when he went into a trance in the Akashic records and in the raw material with who was channeling that being there? I'll be going over more raw material. But Ra said in a channeling reading that Edgar Casey was getting his information from the Akashic records, and apparently Ra himself wasn't the Akashic records, he was some kind of entity. And according here, we're communicating to the Pleiadian Collective, and with Jane Roberts, we were communicating with some being calling himself Seth. Esther Hicks was some being calling himself Abraham. And the other ones I've gone over, Ramtha was communicating through J.Z. Knight. So it has been a very interesting bit of research looking into this stuff. And looking for the common denominators, what they're saying about dimensions and beings and coming events like Nancy Leader saying of Veda talk with the Pleiadians or whatever, that the Anunnaki and Planet X and all these things are real. They all, even in this book here, it says something drastic is about to happen. What are we to believe? What happens is that sometimes you have issues with your life that are in resonance with that other issue from another lifetime. Perhaps it's the issue of self-love. As you come into that issue, the two vibrate together and intensify, and sometimes you will have past life memories. They're coming up to get your attention because something in your life is in resonance with that, and it's beginning to vibrate. So if you can see to clear it, this go around, you are clearing things out of your personal level, and then you can start to clear things out of that other stuff, all that other stuff, and all those other blockages from other lifetimes and from your genetic line. Fair or not, you have chosen this one to be the lifetime that gets to process all that other unfinished business. This is the conscious state that is going to take this body into the fourth dimension. I keep talking about this ascension, this transformation, with leaving the third dimension and moving into a fourth dimension. And remember, for 2,000 years, 2,500 years, the Hebrews have been on something called a diaspora all over the world. The last couple hundred years have been concentrated efforts, even causing anti-Semitism all over the world and other manipulations of our reality to get the Hebrews moving back to Israel, and it's called Aliyah. And most of the Hebrews, well, I should say Jewish people today, are not even really Hebrews. So what is going on with these entities behind the scenes, with mysticism and the Kabbalah? So take your body back into the fourth dimension. If you want to clean house, so it is important. Many of you ask, what role do past lives play? And we will tell you that they play a very big one. They're not really past, they're concurrent. As you are both working on things, concurrent, your past lives are working with your current life. You are clearing things out energetically. So remember, they don't want us to pray, to eliminate the opaque, your belief in God. And in these books, Rabbi Marvin Anthelman talks about a set of commandments which are opposite of God's commandments and laws. They're the ones who started the swingers and orgies, and they're the people who behind the porn industry, the movie theaters and all that. And it's telling you you have free will, you can do whatever you want to do. There's no laws. If it feels good, do it. That's what they're teaching. And how many people are just standing in line, ready and willing to embrace that philosophy? As bizarre as it is. We're seeing all the TV programming and all the other stuff, calling decent people, family value people, haters. Get with the program. You don't have to be goody two-shoes. You can get into some dastardly deeds and perverted behavior too. And again, I'm not trying to bash all this teaching. I'm just trying to say there is a different kind of philosophy being taught, other than the one I grew up with, which they're saying is outdated and no longer needed. These things are true, that they're teaching that philosophy. I've been reading it out of these books. All right, so you are both working on things. Your past life and your current life are concurrent. You are clearing things out energetically through both emotional bodies. So your past emotional body, your spiritual self, and your current emotional body, your spiritual self. That's enough to make your head spin, it says here. Many of you who have been awake for a while are starting to clear out these other lifetimes. You're starting to have more of these memories because you're getting to those deeper levels of your emotional field that really need to be cleared. Remember, Edgar Cayce in his material was talking about people gaining in soul growth and some people losing ground on their soul growth. What is this type of material trying to encourage? Soul growth or abandoning soul growth? The final stages, as it were, so that it was a very long answer to your question. moving on here. Now the question here to the channeler Wendy Kennedy when she's in a trance communicating with the Pleiadian Collective. Is it true that in these past and concurrent lives, we've really done it all? We've all been killers, monks, women, and men. Remember, this is a philosophical teaching here they're emphasizing. I wonder what the answer is. The answer is yes. We've all been killers, monks, men, and women. Brought to you by this Pleiadian Collective. What do you think? There are many who would like to think there been nothing but the light. So a lot of people would like to think they've been nothing but just good people. But we'll say, one, how boring is that? And two, you've been both. For those of you who are extremely light, I guess that means being good, guess what? You've had extremely dark lifetimes. You've probably done some extremely dastardly deeds. I guess I didn't use that word earlier by accident. I have pre-read all this material. You've probably done some extremely dastardly deeds. So that's difficult. Part of your New Age movement, I've got to show you this because it's what it says here. Where my fingers are, if you want to pause your computer and read it. I am using a new computer. Things are a little different. My other one failed on me. The camera. So, part of your New Age movement wants to be all light and all happy. And we'll tell you that is not what this lifetime is about. Because there are prejudices, there are. And the idea here is that you release all of that prejudice, all of that judgment against the dark. So they want all of us to release our prejudices, all of that judgment against the dark, pansexualism, pedophilia with children, human sacrifices, wars and killing. Get rid of your judgment on those issues. Not. That's what it says here. Because you cannot have one without the other. So they're telling us we have to have the dark side. There's a difference. There's a different mindset there. There are some who want to step into that space and say, oh, I'm nothing but a good person. I'm nothing but the light. I haven't had any dark lifetimes. And we will tell you it is precisely the opposite. Because usually it's not until you have mastered the dark or some aspect of the dark that you are given abilities to work in the light as well. So remember, I started this video with Circles of Intrigue by Text Mars. Think about it. 9/11, World War I, World War II, murder, mayhem, theft, chaos, insanity, and human history. Think about this material. What kind of forces behind the scene have been causing all this suffering and pain for the rest of us? Or is it just something we all have done, as it teaches here? Question. A lot of people may not have heard of channeling and might say that this type of communication is possible. What would you say to them? Is impossible. Excuse me. Answer. We would say it's very much like your radio stations. It's all about energy. It's all about frequency. Nothing more. Nothing less. And you are the receiver. You are tuning into it. Just as your eyes are able to interpret frequency waves and send them to the brain, it's no different with emotions.
And that is what we're sending you, emotions. Information on a carrier wave, on a frequency. But you have to find the right station. You have to turn the volume up. Right now, most of you have the volume turned down. Each and every one of you has the ability to channel. You do it every day, you just don't realize that you're doing it. You work with your oversoul. You work with your higher consciousness. You work with your guides. You work with your dearly departed. Just as your eyes cannot see ultraviolet rays, that you cannot perceive them doesn't mean they don't exist. Those frequencies are there. You may just not be aware. You're not interpreting the signal. So they're saying all of us could be channeling material. We could all be psychics. And to some degree, I believe that. I think, again, I keep talking and saying this, that I believe that we all need to wake up. I'm not pushing for people to believe like I do, but at least wake up. Look into this stuff. Look what I just said here. When in past lives we've all been murderers and done dastardly things. Do you believe that? I don't. I think we're individual spiritual beings. And even the Lord's Prayer says, lead me not into temptation and deliver me from evil. So evil does exist. And would evil like to get the rest of us to believe that, well, being good's just one lifetime, being evil's another lifetime. No big deal. Common sense, please. Is that what people want to believe? You really want to make Christians and even good Islamic people or other religions, if they don't approve of pansexuality and perversion and murder and theft and doing anything to have $1 million, greed, abusing and using other people, don't worry about it. It's just an experience. And you should experience the dark side and the light side. You think? Where's the common sense on these issues? So how does one interpret a signal? So how do you communicate with this other reality? One, it's clearing the static on the line. In other words, clearing out the static in your body. So you need to clear out the static in your body. That's your mind thinking. You're going to slow down. They want to teach you how to communicate with them. Is that a good thing? Clearing out some of the lower frequencies that prohibit you from hearing. And that's why more and more channels are coming forth. So is the ability to communicate with the other beings in the invisible reality, is that on the increase? Is that part of the end times? Just asking questions. Not necessarily have I figured out exactly what I think on some of these issues. But I am reading and thinking. That's a start. Because they are clearing out those energetic fields. People are raising their frequencies, and it's making it much easier to connect with the other side. If you're looking at someone who is psychic, they're tapping into the Akashic records and probable realities. That's one station. The dearly departed, that's another station. So you can communicate with the Akashic records like Edgar Cayce, or you can communicate with the dearly departed, and a lot of people go and see psychics to try to talk to the dearly departed. Your angels and guides, that's another station, beings you can talk to. And here we are, your extraterrestrials at the other end. So here you go in this book by the channeled 2,500 collective of Pleiadians saying, yes, indeed, extraterrestrials are other beings that can be communicated with. There is a smorgasbord of stations to listen to, things to try, lots of beings who want to communicate. Jesus taught, don't trust the spirits, you've got to test the spirits.
Go look it up. Some of them are your families, your star families, who are working with a good number of you at night. When you go through a long sleep and you're tired, when you wake up, it's because you've been busy working, out of your body, working to get information. And some of you are reporting back. This is what it is like on Earth. You may have been at a podium addressing the masses on other planets. So when you're sleeping and your soul leaves your body, maybe you've been on a podium addressing the masses on other planets. That's what it says here. Do you believe that? You're checking in and telling everyone what's going on. Because, as you know, not everyone got to come. So how would you effectively communicate with a dead relative? Well, first, we would say you would have to surround yourself and protect yourself with beautiful white light and relax. The greatest issue is the anxiety that comes up. There are usually memories of pain and loss and disconnection that keep you from connecting. If you can relax and envision the eternal connection that you have with other beings, it puts you at ease and opens you up to higher frequencies. It makes it much easier for you then to communicate, to hear, because you're removing the static on the line. So if you can clear out your own energetic field by feeling unconditional love, surround yourself with peace, white light, love, ask for assistance from the beings on the higher light, from the highest light, and love all others bind from you. Be very clear about that. And then imagine that connection. Hear that connection. Wow. Well, if you've been paying attention to my channeling videos since video number 122 with the raw material, and even with Edgar Casey and other materials, the Pleiadians, we've talked about thought forms. Just thought I'd take a break from the book there for a minute. So Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter, thought forms. So apparently this is a thought form. Think of it as an emotion. Think of it as maybe you've seen that what water crystals look like when you speak. There's videos on YouTube about this. And you are loving and you think kind thoughts, and the crystal's just beautiful shape. But if you get angry and vicious and wish that water would die, you get a really distorted, ugly looking crystal. Some famous scientists discovered this and shared it with the world. So my point is thought forms. We create them every time we think. We have emotions, love and hate. And we know with a lot of the fear-mongering, Planet X, pole shifting, terror events, economic fear, biodiversity, global warming, climate change, all the hatred against President Donald Bush, all the hatred against ex-President Obama, all the hatred against Bush, all the hatred against Clinton, all the hatred against different countries, promoted by the people who control our media. Think about that. When they create all that hatred, they're creating thought forms, because we create thought forms, apparently. And if they create people to think ugly thoughts and have fear. So I just thought I'd mention a couple things that are obvious. The Theosophitical Publishing House is right there, where my finger is. So the Theosophitical Society was started by Helena Blavatsky and others, who also created the Lucifer Publishing Company, the Lucifer magazines, and these kinds of pamphlets back then. When was this published? This is New Age stuff here. This book, 1925. So the issue has been going on for a while. Not very new for New Age, is it? This book was first published in 1901. Wow. Alright, so I just thought I'd show you a couple pictures and get back to the book. 2 effects of thought. How the vibration acts. The form and its effect. So I need to probably make some videos. But here are some thought forms, pictures. You ever look? Here's a, you can see here. Right here, my finger is an oscilloscope. And I have a probe here. And if I turn on this oscilloscope and put my finger on it, you can see the electrical activity in my body. And if I were speaking into a microphone and put this probe on it, I can see the signal shape of the voice signal. A lot of people have seen that. Anyway, so I have an electronics engineering technician degree. Worked 10 years at a major aerospace company. So certainly we are bioelectric beings. It's the pulses in our body that keeps our heart going, and electronic communications in our body that help our billions of cells communicate with each other. If you don't know how it works, it's quite interesting. When you eat food, it goes into your stomach, and certain beneficial nutrients, particles, are separated from the food you eat with a lot of acid in your stomach, and then those food particles go through your body in your bloodstream, and the cells will see the particle go by, and if it's the right kind of voltage, the food particle, it's much smaller than this, the cell will gobble it up. It just reaches out there like a little magnet, and it has to fit the key exactly. There's different shapes. That's how your cells eat. You're a bioelectric being. Now, one of the detrimental things going on in our world today, of course, there's actually numerous of them, but genetically modified foods change the shape of those nutrients. So when they do go through your bloodstream, and this cell wants to eat, it can't get in. It's keyed wrong. And your cells actually see it as an enemy. And it forms a mass of stuff around it to protect you. That's called a tumor. So the powers that be that run our planet, not trying to get off topic here, circle of intrigue, the Illuminati, reptilian, Pleiadian types, beings from other dimensions, apparently are not so benevolent as they would have us think. Thought forms. And they mean different things. Nice, pretty shapes, as you can see here. So when you're thinking kind thoughts, loving thoughts, hateful thoughts, they have identifiable shapes. Here's an interesting one with the wings on it. So when I read this from the channeled material, and there will be more, crazy shapes of thought forms. There's even one video on YouTube, webdowser.com, one of my websites, I think has this video posted. But you speak into this tube, and your voice goes down the tube onto this membrane, this little rubber thing, and you put some sand on it, and your voice actually creates different shapes, different words and tones that you make. So again, my point here is just to show you that when I read this stuff from channeled entities here, in these channeling books, and they mention thought forms, it comes from the Theosophical Society teachings, the Secret Doctrine, New Age teachings, who are the same people who created the Lucifer Publishing Company, Lucifer Magazine. There's more behind all this than meets the eye. Good or bad is not what I'm trying to say, but we are more than what we think we are. That I am trying to say. Okay, ready? I'm going to continue reading on page 66. You have not been conditioned to remember what this connection is like. So if you want to communicate with others, beings that have died, whatever, you need to quiet the static in your mind. And you have not been conditioned to remember what this connection is like. You've forgotten what it's like. It may seem very much like your imagination as you begin. But then we always say to you, what is your imagination anyway? That's another one that will make your head spin. While it may seem like your imagination to begin with, it is that initial connection. You will begin to turn the volume up, and you will begin to sense within your own body subtle differences. That is not just you. So if you do take yoga, meditation, ayahuasca drug, peyote, learn about the shama techniques, you too can communicate with other beings. Least we forget. I've gone over another book. Let me get that book and show it, because it's kind of important. Series number 14. I suppose I should make another book review and update myself. So I probably made the first video back in December 13 when I started the series. Psychic Self-Defense. Dion Fortune. Why do you have to have some self-defense training if you're going to enter that world? Go buy the book, or go watch my video, or look it up by other people. And series number 13, I've made videos on the aura. You see me sitting here, but if you were psychic, you would see that there's an auric field around me about this big. And if I'm not healthy, it's shriveled up. And if I'm healthier, it's larger. And if I'm not healthy, it's kind of pink or red. And if I'm healthy, it's green or blue. Been studying this stuff for years. You can get these books. The Outer Aura in Disease. It says right here, at the top of this chapter. So again, there is more to our reality. And this one particular doctor looked into different auras of different people, and he writes all about it. So I started this investigation a long time ago, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And I just saw this other book, 115, when I was picking up those books. But I think it's kind of important. Murder by injection. Eustace Mullins. Since 1910-1920, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, who are apparently the Pleiadians and the Reptilians and the Anunnaki, the secret societies, the people behind the New Age, Satanism, Luciferianism, 1910-1920s, the Rockefellers, including the other Illuminati bloodline families, went out of their way to put fluoride in the water of all the small towns across the USA and the world, and take over the medical establishment and get rid of holistic healing and bring us allopathic medicine, surgery, and the hospital control. They created a huge industry, and with the genetically modified foods, sky spraying chemicals, vaccines. The title of this book is appropriate. Murdered by injection. We're under attack. The books are out there. I made videos on them. I've been studying now, going on this September, October will be 4 years of making videos. I started my pursuit of W2TH, what the heck is going on in our reality, back in 2005 when I went to Costa Rica on one of those big zero birthdays, and people at the Tiki Bar on the Pacific Ocean in Jaco Beach started to tell me that they felt sorry for we Americans because we didn't know what was going on in the world. And I was in disbelief, and when I flew back home to Miami and I saw all the chemtrails for the first time that they told me about, and I went to my computer at my house and I started looking up what they said, and 2 or 3 weeks I was getting more anxious, more anxiety, more ticked off. They had told me the truth. We are under attack. And I think we're under attack not just physically. I think we're under attack spiritually. Like it says here in Rabbi Marvin Antleman's books, to eliminate the opaque, who discloses the Frankist and Sabbatins, messiahs, the Jewish Messiah, in 1666, who came up with the commandments to, even as bizarre, it was divine if you would marry a prostitute. There's just some certain way of thinking, do as thou wilt, this other way, and apparently these people have a seething hatred towards God and Jesus, and even the Islamic people. And according to my series 23, Aleister Crowley, the evilest man alive, they hate the Hindus and Buddhists and other religions too. So we have some dark entities on the other side, apparently behind the scenes, intentionally causing chaos and anarchy and destruction and illnesses and wars and death, theft on planet Earth. Apparently they have a serious hatred towards humanity. All right, back to the book. Just keep that in the back of your mind when I'm reading this stuff. I know that when these people read this stuff, write this stuff, or channel this information, they don't just come out and say ugly things because nobody would follow it. They say a lot of platitudes, a lot of nice things, a lot of beguilement to rope people in. But if you pay attention, line by line, and think about it, maybe we can all find out what's really going on. Your guides and beings on the other side are your biggest support group. So if you quiet your mind, you can communicate with these other beings. They are your biggest support group. Remember in the Bible, Jesus said, look it up, don't believe me, test the spirits. If you look that up, it'll tell you how to test the spirits. Who's who. They want you to succeed. So if you communicate with these beings from the other side, they apparently want you to succeed. Strangely enough, when I went over the Carlos Castaneda, a separate reality, my videos on that, you had to be really careful with those beings on the other side. They would kill you immediately. Down there in Mexico when you take peyote. You had to be trained by a shaman before you entered that reality. But here people are just jumping right in. And again, I'm not saying everything I'm reading here is detrimental to we humans, and I'm not saying it's beneficial. I'm trying to figure it out. And the one way to figure it out is just to read it, think about it, and read a lot about the different channelers and books. Where does it fit in the new age and the new world order? The circle of intrigue, as I went over. They want you to succeed, so they are going to try over and over again to make sure you get the information. Do you believe this stuff? Sounds nice. How many guides does a person generally have? It really depends upon the soul. But if you were talking about the guides that are with you throughout your multiple lifetimes, because you are in a system of duality, you have set up for yourself, you've got two main guides. And then you are working with others that you've made contracts with, who we consider to be guides as well. So apparently, according to these teachings and these channeled materials and other New Age teachings I've gone over, we all made deals to be on Earth at this time. We agreed to come here for a purpose. It's what they teach. It's not what I'm trying to preach. I'm not trying to preach anything. I try to be open-minded, but I do have some personal thoughts on issues like murder by injection. After reading this book in its entirety, you can see my tabs here. In 1910, 1920, taking over the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, the medical establishment, fluoride in the water, and so much more since then that many of us are aware of. So who's behind all this? This Illuminati, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all the other name, brand, bloodline family that's even on your children's cereal. Go look up Fritz Springmeier, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Thought I'd go grab the book. Remember that thought form that looked like that with the wings I just mentioned? Look at the skull and bone creatures there with the sun and the moon. What do you think about the sun and the moon on all this occult symbolism? Here's some of the bloodline names families. Here's one, Russell. I think the Russell Trust were part of the Jehovah's Witnesses creating that organization. Part of that was with the Mormons. The KRUPP, the Krups. See on the top? Just flipping through it, showing you some family names here. Here's something interesting. Membership list of the Bohemian Grove in this book. Looking for a particular name. Here's one. Reynolds. Collins. Who are these bloodlines? And you see these things on major chemical plants across the United States, DuPont. Even Oriental, the Lai family. So when you're listening to channeled material, who are you listening to? What's behind all that? What's behind the Illuminati? And of course, the government's into psychic warriors, CIA, Black Ops programs, Navy, Air Force, Army, biological plagues, drugs, monitoring us 24/7, JDAM 15. You think we have anything to worry about? All right, back to the book. So it talked about guides here and making contact. Question: I guess communicating with them would be similar to communicating with a deceased relative. We read about that earlier here. So we were talking about, do we have guides? Do you have guardian angels in the spirit world looking out after you? And can you communicate with them? What's it say here? Again, I'm not trying to preach this stuff. I'm looking into it so I can figure out WTH. What the heck is going on in our reality? Why did they put fluoride in the water, mercury in vaccines, genetically modified foods that you sell, can't identify and eat, and even forms a defense mechanism? They've made studies with rats and other animals, and they've got gigantic tumors all over these animals. It happens to humans. And all the electromagnetic pollution in our reality right now, dumping of chemicals in the sky. So I just think this channeled material is, some of it could be another weapon used against we the people, humankind. And we know if you've been watching my videos, and the Freemasons and other secret societies are anti-Christians, anti-Jesus, and apparently anti-Muslims, anti-Islamists. Since 9/11, they've been destroying the Middle East, while the rest of us all watch. But generally speaking, we're being distracted, deceived. Our media is controlled by these evil forces, and beguilement with new beer breweries opening up, and drugs and crazy TV programs, murder and mayhem, and distraction, entertainment, feeding the need for people. Why? So it says here to communicate with these guides. The answer is by the Pleiadian Collective here. It is precisely the same. You're just envisioning and being clear about who you want to connect with. So you can connect with the Akashic Records. You can connect with angelic beings. You can connect with your guides. You can connect with deceased relatives. Or you can connect with the Pleiadians. Or you can connect with God knows who else. Satanic and Luciferic beings. Make a deal with the devil. Trade your soul for some temporary wealth and power, and satisfying some perverted sickness, sexual, whatever. Torture, abusing other people. A lot of sickness in the mind out there. A lot of people need to wake up and see it. Doesn't have to be that way. But apathy and ignorance is not bliss, contrary to what they would have you believe. One of the biggest things that prohibits people from connecting is asking. You've all forgotten how to ask what you want. That's a big one. We don't always give information. You've got to ask. So this is a voluntary thing. They can't just invade you. You've got to ask. I don't mind praying. Remember, praying was the good thing. We knew who we were praying to when we prayed to God. And Jesus said, when you ask God for anything, ask it in my name, and ye shall receive. I'm all for that. I believe there is an angelic world. But I also remember Jesus was casting out demons and spirits, unclean spirits. Just saying, this is all education. So you've got to ask. Because when you ask, you are consciously seeking. You are telling the universe, this is what I want. And remember, I'm trying to get the common denominators from what these channeled entities, the Pleiadians speaking to Barbara Marciniak, Lee Carroll with Cryon, Esther Hicks with Abraham, and the other ones I've been going over. Jane Roberts with Seth, and the other ones. I've got other ones to do. Natalie Gleason I just did. And we're doing Wendy Kennedy right now with the Pleiadian Collective. Because when you ask, you are consciously seeking. You are telling the universe, this is what I want. And until you ask for it, it doesn't always know it. Your thoughts create form. All right, well, I showed you the Thought Form book. I did it for a reason. By the Theophist Society, who created the Lucifer Publishing Company and Lucifer Magazine and a lot of the New Age books. Just saying, think about it. Your thoughts create form because it is your emotional state that vibrates it into being. Vibrates your thought into being. Even in Project Montauk, when they put that electronic device on the person's head or this electronic chair they sat in, they were experimenting with mind control and opening up portals. Project Montauk, go look it up. I made videos on these topics. And apparently the mind could actually open up a portal with the electronics all hooked up to the person. And one of the guys was outraged and actually manifested a beast who wreaked havoc on the base. I've gone over this with some of my previous videos, series 75 and 74 and 73 and 76, Peter Moon, Philadelphia Experiment. So I've been searching lots of material trying to understand what's going on. So apparently they could create beings with these manifested thought forms. Even in the Jewish material, the Kabbalah, they created these beings, monsters. To go back to that, it's in previous videos. So what is magic and what is witchcraft and what's it have to do with channeled material and the intentional destruction of Christianity? And the circle of intrigue, the Illuminati. Look at the symbols on this book. The all-seeing eye on the US $1 bill. NATO, the Pentagon, 911, destroying all the countries in the Middle East. Isn't it funny how this channeled material ties it all together? And what are the elites doing that we should be aware of? Creating underground facilities, stocking them up. They even have a secret government in operation right now. And part of the depopulation program, in my opinion, is whenever they do whatever they're going to do, if even some incoming nemesis star, Planet X, Nibiru is coming, they don't want the rest of we humans on the surface to try to break into the underground facilities. And they're working
over 24/7 creating all kinds of biological plagues and biological weapons. Electronics and Jade Helm 15 doesn't paint a really nice picture, does it? But again, we're a spiritual being, so if you know where to bank your thinking and who to trust, probably goes a long ways towards protecting yourself and your family and others. All right, so here we go, back to this. You create form, but it is your emotional state that vibrates it into being. Project Montauk, creating those monsters, opening up portals. They were abducting children back then, after World War II. Opening up portals and pushing the children through the portals, abducted young boys from New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, etc. Not able to retrieve a lot of them, but the boys who found their way back into the portal apparently described what was on the other side of the portal. So who knows where they sent so many young boys into these time portals they opened at Project Montauk. Using electronic technologies and creation of thought forms and portals. We're communicating with beings from the other side if you believe this channeled material. We know the Bible talks about angels and demons and Nephilim, unclean spirits and all that. The Book of Enoch. So much information on abductions, gray aliens, reptilians. So many books on the secret societies, conspiracies, New Age movement, New World Order, symbolism everywhere. We got to open the mind. Then we can create our own reality by doing away with the evil forces with our mind. Just pondering here on this Saturday in the mountains of North Carolina while I'm making this video. So if someone wanted money in their life, but they always felt anxious or anxiety about money, that fear would keep it away? Yes, that's the answer from the Pleiadian Collective. Because the signal you're sending out is an emotional level, you're sending out on an emotional level, is I'm afraid of it. I've thought about this. You may have that thought once or twice, that you feel like you want it while your underlyingly fear is constant. So even though you want a lot of money, but maybe inside your spirit or soul, you have a fear about money. You may have that thought once or twice, that you feel like you want it while that underlying fear is constant. That's the signal that's being sent out to the universe. It all comes down to judgment always. That's what it says here. Page 67. Wendy Kennedy, channeling the Pleiadian Collective. That's their information. You're holding on to judgment of some sort. It may be what money represents. If it's the wealthy are corrupt, then that's the thought form you've got there. And that's the thought form I can find my book here. That's the thought form you've got. If you think that the wealthy are all evil, then why would you want to be wealthy? Because maybe you think you'd be evil? Thought forms. What are they teaching here? You've got judgments about that. Or you could have judgments that you really don't deserve it. There are lots of different reasons why. So go online, watch some of the channeled entities.
people, Esther Hicks, Lee Carroll, Cryon, Barbara Marciniak. Listen to the material. That's all I'm trying to say here with this video. Listen. Remember this, what I'm talking about. Where the core issue could be, and when you're talking about money in particular, when we look at humanity, there is usually multiple reasons. You have been conditioned, and you've got a lot to unplug from mass consciousness. When the judgments and core issues come up, how do you clear them? You hear this teaching that I'm teaching? What do you think? One is just by not judging. So they don't want you or me or anyone to judge. And the New Age does seem to teach the pansexuality and a lot of other anti-Ten Commandment, Christianity, Jesus, Islamic, decent people issues. Yes? No. Aleister Crowley's do as thou wilt. You're divine, they teach in this stuff. You can create your own reality, manifest your desires. I'm studying and trying to rationalize this information. I appreciate people watching my video, leaving some notes, polite notes if you disagree. And I do believe this information, of my discussion of it, could make some people unhappy who have been following this stuff and who have been bought into the mind control that the old religions are outdated and Christianity and those preachers and priests are all evil and haters. Forget the Bible, don't go to church, don't pray to God. To eliminate the opate by Rabbi Marvin Antelman, the leader of the Jewish Congress, who tells all about the Frankists and Sabbatans, the people who created the swingers and started orgies, control the porn industry. Do as thou wilt. Well, if it feels good, do it. I'm as human as anybody else, and I've indulged in extracurricular activity when I was young, going to parties and drinking beer and rock concerts and all that. I thought it was relatively harmless until they take it to the nth degree like they're doing these days. Whoever thought it was so bad to watch Seinfeld or 2.5 Men? Whoever pondered the fact that Charlie or Jerry slept with a different woman almost every show? Sometimes multiple women. Whoever thought? The innuendos in the TV programming. Was that part of an attack on humanity? A movie program like Modern Family? So you see how all of society is being swayed. And you see it in the channeled material. Alright. When you can see what you've learned or why a situation has been presented, then you can release your judgment about it. Let us give you an example. If you are afraid of power, you're going to put yourself in situations to test your power or for others to subjugate you so you can learn that you have personal power. There are no victims here. There are only willing participants. So when you are the recipient of that domination, in other words, when you are allowing others to subjugate you, the moment you stop, you see that you have power. So the whole thing is a setup. This reality is showing you that you have power. Now you've got to clear the issue that's at the heart of it, of why you were afraid to use your power. But the incident itself was just the catalyst, an opportunity for you to see within yourself. And when you can recognize it as being such, then it loses its charge. If you can begin to understand what others are playing, that others are playing that role, so that you can see that about yourself, they're reflecting it for you, they are in service to you, that changes the dynamic of the relationship. So if bad things are happening to you and other people are doing it, maybe you should thank them because they're trying to be of service and educate you. So it teaches here. They are no longer someone who is dominating you. They are someone who has agreed on a soul level, contracted to serve you, to be of service to you, to help reflect this back to you. And that creates a very different emotional response, and it neutralizes that charge. It alters the frequency. Would that scenario apply to someone like Hitler and the people he put in prison camps? Another question to the Pleiadian Collective. Answer. We're talking about a larger event, but yes. As a mass consciousness, to alter that perception of who they are and what they hold to be important. That being who was Hitler agreed to be of service to the collective, to that group, to that genetic line. And that's a hard one for humans to see. That's a very hard thing for them to begin to forget. And then that goes back to the veil and why the veil was placed there, here, so that you don't remember anything. So when we were born in this life, as a child, as a baby, it was some kind of veil, so we couldn't remember where we came from. So this stuff teaches. Because this has played itself out before in more dramatic ways that have created far more strife than what has happened on this planet. Which is hard to imagine because you've had so much bloodshed, so much pain. Entire star systems have been destroyed. Think of Star Wars, the stories, and the planet destroyer in that movie, series of movies. All that is stored within you energetically, and it's also stored in that genetic line. It's part of what they wanted to heal. So they wanted to go through the experience again in order to bring it up, just as you're doing now on a personal level, as you work through things in your life, and then start to clear through past lives. Question to the Pleiadian Collective. Wendy Kennelly in a tranced state. It's all quite complex, but in a way it also feels simple. Answer. Yes, it really is a lot easier than you imagine it to be. The universe is a rather simple place, but the mind, the intellect, makes it far more complex. Question. To make our way in the universe, what are the basics a person should know? The answer. One is that you have free will. Here we go, free will. 2, that there are only willing participants. There are no victims. I'd like to tell that to all the Arabs that are dead, or the American Indians in the last century. People in Central South America, the Africans. It says here there are no victims. World War I, World War II, 2 nuclear bombs exploded in Japan. There are no victims, it says here. 9/11, all the false flags, shootings, releasing of biological weapons, like the AIDS program, though they were releasing that virus in LA and New York, according to Leonard Horowitz, AIDS and Ebola. There are no victims. Those people died horrific deaths in hospitals. So you can create your reality. You can unplug from mass consciousness, and you can create a separate reality. And this is all an illusion. It is all an illusion. You are an immortal being who has chosen to project itself into this game. You know how many children get those games where they, I guess, killing all kinds of animals and beings, war games and all that? Go to the children's department at the department store. So many of these vicious games. And it says here, you project yourself into this game, and they're raising children on these games now. Warriors and all that, monsters. It's a bit like watching a film, so I'm sure they're desensitizing the children of this age. It's an illusion. It's like watching a play at a theater. Actors who have donned roles. It's an improvisation. They have things they want to sketch out, and they go for it. They start to move through this scenario, and that's what you're doing down here on Earth now. So, just to recap, I've been doing a lot of research on this channeled material, this New Age teaching, this creating your reality. And I had some interesting thoughts about that. They want to destroy Christianity, including the Islamic people's religion. And according to Aleister Crowley, my series 23, the Book of the Law, they're anti-Hindu, Buddhist. And there is this New Age, this one world order plan with a one world religion. And there's this prophesized Antichrist. So if you can change mass consciousness, and let's assume for a moment we can create our reality. And I've gone over communism and Zionism out of the Encyclopedia Judaica. Many hours of research and videos. So these people would be manifesting, creating their reality. Yes, no. If it works for us according to all this teaching, and they have a particular way they want us to think, a philosophy. So if it works today, what do they want us to think? What do they want us not to think? What do they want us to believe? What do they want us not to believe? And what have they been believing and seething for? You know what seething means? Somebody with a burning desire for this new age and new world order, ruling the world, these people who will be the aristocrats, as it says in Professor Higger's The Jewish Utopia, Protocols of Zion, and much other material. And the conflict and turmoil by the Jewish people, or the so-called Jewish people. Remember, a lot of them are not Hebrew, they're Khazarian, they're white northerners who took over this religion 1,000 years ago. And these are the people behind the Russian Revolution. They killed millions and millions. Apparently the people behind World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. So these people have been believing, manifesting their reality. If it works the way these channeled entities tell us, then it works for them too. And they've been doing this. They've been trying to manifest it for a long time. The Aliyah program, all the Jews returning from the rest of the world for the last 100 years, which is why I believe a huge portion of World War I and World War II and 9/11 took place. And that reality is manifesting. People are moving back to Israel from all over the world. Look at the glasses, the Israeli flag on that guy. These people with their new Israeli visas. Are they manifesting their reality? You bring about what you think about. I'm listening to these channelers. And think about what's been going on in the world. Here's another picture from the Zionist site. Look at the murder, the mayhem, and the chaos and anarchy in that painting. Manifesting desires. You bring about what you think about. Look what we've all seen. We need not be confused. We just need to see it and open our own eyes and minds and realize we can make choices. We do not have to accept it the way that a lot of people think. I've had people tell me, Rick, I know something's going on. I know there'll be some huge disaster. This whole thing is obvious, but it'll happen after I'm dead. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. By one lady holding her baby infant, 3 months old. But I said to her, I said, well, what about your baby? What about your children? It is our responsibility to wake up. So you're manifesting your desires. They don't want us to pray to eliminate the opaque. They want to destroy Christianity. But go look up some pictures on Zionism and Aliyah and the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, and information about them wanting to rebuild King Solomon's temple and bring about this new age, new world order, one world currency, one world religion, and the biodiversity, sustainability, global warming, climate change, women's march on Washington right after President Donald Trump got elected. One lady was asked, why are you here? And she said, I don't know. I just want to be part of it. And there were websites on the internet giving people instructions, what bus station, what train station, where to meet people at the airport for the Women's March on Washington. My point is, people have no idea what they're being roped in to do, like fishing. But when you pray and you think about and you manifest, what is this man trying to manifest here in Jerusalem? Look at all those men. If you bring about what you think about, and they've been burning desire, seething, for 100, 200 years to have their kingdom in Israel, isn't it obvious it's happening? The stuff they're teaching is evolving. People are coming to Israel from all over the world. They've created anti-Semitism. They've created economic collapse and destruction. There is this thing happening. And a lot of Jews, good Jews, have tried to warn us. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, to eliminate the opaque, Volume 1, Volume 2. Henry Macau, PhD Jewish author in Canada, to eliminate, the Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. There's books out there. I've been going over them. Circle of Intrigue, Tex Mars. All these people go moving to Israel. Look at them. What you think about, you bring about. I'm listening to this channel material. I believe them. What you think about, you bring about. Aliyah, see it on the bottom of this picture? People have been returning to Israel for 100 years and longer. This is serious business. What you think about, you bring about. You think there's any intentional thinking here? Manifestation? Advertisements everywhere. Look at this picture. Aliyah. You can even see commercials where they got this girl getting off the plane, meeting this man, the dream of her lives, getting married to this wonderful man in Aliyah. The Aliyah Revolution. What you think about, you bring about. Manifestation. So they want to change people who control our world behind the New Age, the New World Order, the Rainbow Agenda, pansexualism, transgender, and to eliminate Christianity, family values, and they're using this psychology and this metaphysical teaching. So it seems. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Merico reporting.